Welcome to Breaking the Lines Pod. I'm Arland.
My name is Akeem, and this is a Premier League podcast.
Match week 22 done and dusted. Akeem, how are you, man?
I'm good, my brother. How are you doing? A decent match week, bro. Typical. I normally watch the goals again just to refresh myself coming into the pod. And bro, I don't know why, but this week I just noticed normal it's like 13 minutes, 15, 16. This week, mate, it was 8 minutes.
Yeah, not a lot of goals, man.
Yeah, it kind of explained the weekend, but
Yeah.
some good games, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a lot of maybe not like exciting when you look at the results, but I think I watched a decent amount of football this weekend and it was good. It was a good watch. We'll start off with the United City game. Kind of obviously a shock result for us, and what I think probably is my team of the week is probably United
Yeah, I
for
was gonna
me.
say we probably have our team of the week down already and
Yeah.
everything, but what a performance it was from them.
Absolutely. I mean, I watched this game start to finish, and I think City had one shot on target from a corner kick, and I mean, the rest of it was just it just seemed like it was all United. I know City had the possession, but it seemed like United were creating the dangerous attacks. You know, they could have scored more. They scored a couple of offside goals, and
Yeah.
what a performance by Bruno Fernandes too. I think that was an exceptional performance by him.
Hey, playing in his position, it'd be crazy to see what players do when they play in their own position, right? Kobe Manu also being out there, yeah, I think overall, man, for United, probably obviously we'd have to see how they back it up. That's my biggest thing. Not to kind of jump in straight into the negative, but I would think that it's probably their performance of the season so far. So yeah, I think it was just from back to front, like you said, a well deserved and a well-rounded performance from United, to be fair. Some what, three, four, I mean, I think three disallowed goals you said. They scored all of them. So yeah, you got to give it to them. I think it was a complete performance from United in structure, but they just looked better.
Yeah, absolutely. I was watching the game and yeah, I was kind of trying to compare it to United games that I've seen in the past, and it just seemed like there was so much more intensity. They were so quick with their passes. I mean, they were breaking like winning the ball from City in their third, and they were breaking out so quickly with the one-touch passes, and next thing you know, there's like 3, 4 players on the counter through on goal. So very impressive. And I obviously from my point of view, I enjoyed it, but I think what kind of also puts it in perspective is the fact that this is not a City side like last year, for example, where they don't necessarily have a clear goal in mind that's they're really fighting for hard. You know what I mean? Because City last year was out of the title race when United played them, and top four was I don't want to say secured, but it was almost implied that they were going to get that. And I think beating this City with a clear target for them, which is they're trying to gain ground on Arsenal, I think that kind of makes it a little bit more impressive in my personal opinion as well.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, like you said, against a very, very good City side. And I don't want to kind of retract and not give City the credit, but I think it's something we kind of had discussed early doors. They've obviously picked it up, and we know with the manager that they have, and they probably will for the end of from now towards the end of the season, possibly go on another run again or whatever the case might be. But I think we've always, like we've said, started the season on the pod that there's just been a little bit of question mark over City. Obviously, we're recording this on Wednesday night. So I was also able to watch a Champions League game. And I know it was a new player making his debut and stuff, but still the same in the Champions League, like shaky defensively. And going forward, just not as electric as we normally would say we would associate a Pep side with. But I'm not saying that to take away the credit from United because I think it was just, like I said, a complete performance. For me, being a Chelsea fan, my biggest frustration in the league this season was I've seen Arsenal above everybody else, but I believe even with City, and they've improved and shown that they're probably the second best team in the league. But I think even I'm still a little bit iffy on that. I think everybody else is up for taking, in my opinion. I think Arsenal's the one team that kind of separates himself, and I've said that early doors in the pod. So that's why for me, I'm not so surprising, and I think I have I wouldn't say it better, but being there with Chelsea in and about, especially where United and City is, you know what I mean? I can, I guess, relate a little bit better because we're fighting for those places. But in honesty, mate, like as a Chelsea fan, like I've told you, start of the season, Arsenal's the one team, and it's this season, it's first time I've seen that different thing from Arsenal that separates them from everybody else. But I think honestly, in my humble opinion, everybody else is up for the taking. Obviously, City has Haaland and phenomenal goal scorer, but I think everybody else is kind of City is a little bit better than the rest, but everybody else is up for the taking, mate, honestly.
Yeah, and I could agree with that. I mean, kind of watching the league week in and week out, and I think kind of the table reflects that as well, right? So I don't think anyone can have any arguments with that. I mean, every team besides I'd say Arsenal has had, and maybe even City has had spells where they go through and they're dropping points, a few weekends in a row. Liverpool have done it. Obviously, United, Chelsea, and I think probably Villa has done it here and there, maybe not sort of consistent, but, they've had some shock results here and there, and they didn't start the season well either, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, that's kind of, one of the most interesting parts of this league is to see how that part of the table finishes too, because I think whatever you call and anyone can come out and say, "Hey, I think these are the teams that are gonna finish here." I think you're just kind of throwing team names out because I don't think it's possible to really look at that and say, "Yeah, I think this is how it's gonna finish," because we have a a few more games to go and, teams' forms are coming in and out, so it's been kind of flip-flop around that part of the table all season, and I think it's just gonna continue to do that until the end of the year. But we can jump into the Chelsea game. 2-0 victory, um, against Brentford at home. I had this game on um, we had this game on the second TV, and, to be honest, I was watching this one more than, the other game that we had on was the Liverpool game. I was watching this one more, and, um Chelsea won 2-0, which is, a great, 3 points for them, clean sheet, but I don't think 2-0 reflects kind of how that game went, at least in the first half. I think Brentford created some chances where, you kind of were like, "How did they not miss?" I think Sade had one where he cut in and instead of shooting, he, like, passed it, but he was, like, one-on-one with the goalkeeper, so I think Brentford had some chances in that, but props to Chelsea, kinda kept going at it, got their 2 goals, and come away with the 3 points.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think on any other day, it could be a different result. I don't know if they would win or lose. That chance as well, along with a couple others, I think is just some I wouldn't say sitters, but I think that one-on-one where he passed there, I mean, I'm a Chelsea fan, so I'm obviously gonna take it. But yeah, and that day I think easily in the first half, or even not even the first half, because I can appreciate. I said the same thing about Sunderland earlier in the season. Is like they beat us as well at home, and I would say they don't come with a full low block. It's like a mid block, a hybrid kind of where they know when to defend and they know when to press. And I think Brentford did well on the day as well. Like you said, I think the only thing that shined through, like with Chelsea, was just the quality. Obviously, with that draw Pedro goal there, that's a difference there. Obviously, I don't know, I forgot how much we paid for him, but it just shows a little quality and price there. You know what I mean? And then to get the second goal there as well, obviously was good for us to get the 3 points. And as we just discussed, everyone is kind of up for the taking. So for them and for us right now, the more important thing, we weren't playing bad. We didn't fire Enzo because we were playing bad. We just weren't getting results. So like most Chelsea fans, for us right now, especially the crunch time of this season, we just kind of want to pick up those 3 points. But I do agree as well. I do believe that on a different day, it could be a completely different result because Brentford missed not just at one, but a couple, two, three big, what we would call clear-cut chances in the game.
Yeah, absolutely, and I completely forgot about the João Pedro goal that was initially ruled offside, but what a finish, I mean,
Yeah.
left foot kind of corner of the box, and that's his weak foot too. So brilliant, brilliant finish, brilliant goal, and obviously the penalty in the second half with Palmer. Good 3 points. I think this is what you kind of need at this stage in the season too. Obviously we kind of I think from a fan's perspective, I know this is the way I kind of watch Arsenal. I'm sure you watch Chelsea too. Is you look at the performance, and you've been an advocate throughout the season, on the pod at least with me and when I've complained about the Arsenal performances at times and you've kinda told me, the points is all that matters, and I think, being where, how those teams are shaped in and around Chelsea, I think, it's a good result, and I think Arsenal's result was 2-0 too, and I was not too happy about the performance, and you were kind of telling me the same things. Good result for Chelsea, 3 points, I think they take it, keep pace kind of, obviously United won too, stay within, reach distance of them, and, obviously Liverpool dropped points, so that kind of benefits both, United and Chelsea. And also, I mean, if Brentford had won this game, they would have
Yeah.
overtaken Chelsea too.
They were in front of us already, so they would have just extended it if they
Yeah,
had
okay,
won.
yeah. Yeah, so I think it's, when you look at it in that context, I think it even makes it more impressive. But
Yes,
very
sir.
good game, 3 points. Moving on, we can jump into Leeds Fulham. Kind of, I think, not necessarily a surprise in terms of Leeds winning, because I think we both predicted them to win, but I was just shocked kind of looking at the score throughout the game and to see that this was goalless towards, until the last second of the game. So, I don't know. I think I kind of expected goals just because they've been scoring, and when I watch them play or you're kind of watching their games, there's like a goals galore. So I think that's kind of the mindset I went into this with. But 0-0 until the 90th minute, Leeds get a goal, and I think it's obviously very important 3 points for them, considering that they're in a relegation scrap down there. Puts a decent amount of distance between themselves and West Ham, 8 points right now, so not a bad result.
Yeah, not one, but I mean, for me, I kind of have to kind of disagree with I know their games have kind of provided some goals, and that's due to, like we said, just the quality of some of the opponents that they've played, where we've seen a lot of those goals. But they've structured, especially since the change up that I don't know, when the manager was about to get sacked or whatever the case was in that period there, early Christmas or whenever that was. Their structure has always been kind of to be solid defensively and built from that. They've scored some goals, like we said, at 3-3 against Liverpool. I believe they scored 3-1 win against Chelsea. Well, I think they've always kind of made it a structure to where they want to be solid first, and then everything comes kind of after that. So I think when it comes to games like this, where it's a more close-sided games, they're gonna make it and use that, which is their strength, like anybody else would, and kind of make it tough. So I guess we were expecting a little bit more. Wilson, well, Fulham attacking players have been on better form in the last few weeks, so we were expecting a little more in that sense. But I think after we kind of, 2020 is always better. So after we kind of relax and see everything, I think it's kind of explains everything in the game and kind of how Leeds dictate the game to make it out to be fair, especially them being at home. So I think it was a result that kind of told the story of the game pretty much, to be honest, like especially when the goal was scored, kind of when they took their what we would say hands off the handbrake. So yeah, I think I was able to catch bits and pieces, but I saw Leeds just making it tight as they normally are. And for Fulham, if Wilson and those qualities are not showing up on the day, which they didn't, it kind of was a little bit bad for them.
Yeah. No, and it makes sense, right? I mean, you kind of look at it and you understand the result and kind of how it's set up. I think those games that you mentioned, like for example, Leeds Fulham, where obviously two teams that are not on the upper half of or the top half of the league, I should say. I think those games can go one of two ways. They're either very open games and it's a goal fest, or it's tight like this one
Very
was.
true.
So it's completely understandable. Good 3 points for Leeds, and I think that they absolutely take it. For Fulham, not the end of the world, just because I don't think that they'll be sucked down there. I think that they have the distance that they have right now. I don't see them being sucked into a relegation fight. So I don't know necessarily what their target for the season would be, just because I personally think that they're already safe. But we'll see kind of how they move forward. I guess, they'll be promising for them that they get some of the AFCON boys back, a few of the Nigerian boys back, so get those guys in
And they
rotation
three
again.
points behind us in fourth and fifth. Chelsea's they'll be all right, mate. But like I said, we cannot look at this table, man. Like this table right now, you lose 2 games, bro. You in relegation battle.
I don't
So
know if I've ever at this stage, I don't know if I've ever seen a table staggered the way that this table is.
uh,
I don't know if it has been, but I don't recall seeing it. So,
yeah, it probably has, but it's just I don't know. It's crazy to see.
it hasn't been
Yeah.
in the last couple years for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. It hasn't been.
Yeah.
Not like that, but it's Yeah, it's I've said it before. It's like watching early season, but remember we said it like Man City, like you said, you made a good point to mention how Villa didn't start the season well. Man City didn't start well because we were talking about all of them. So for the table to be shaped up where it is, Liverpool, that's three, four, that's second, third, and fourth there that we just mentioned, and we've mentioned on this pod about them having shaky times already this season. Liverpool, we've gone through Man City. We talked about them defensively. Villa didn't start the season so well. So to have them just in the top four, I mean, you wouldn't see that in any other league. So it's a great advert for the Prem for sure.
Well, that kind of moves us into the game at Anfield. Burnley picking up a what could be a vital point for them in a relegation fight, that remains to be seen. I actually watched this game, so I mentioned earlier, this was the game we had on the big TV, and watching the game, I thought in the first half, the way Liverpool kind of played, I thought that they were gonna score a couple goals and they were gonna win this game comfortably. They did get a penalty that Soboslai missed that I didn't think was a penalty, if I'm being honest. We can get into like the kind of the logistics of it, but I just felt like the way there was contact, but I felt like the way Gakpo fell, he didn't fall over the leg, he, like, fell kind of, like, underneath it or however you wanna phrase it, but for me, it was very soft, like, I didn't necessarily think it was a penalty, I didn't think the defender did enough to put him off, but regardless, Szoboszlai missed the penalty, and then, I think Florian Wirtz scored, the goal for
Bro,
them.
before the game on Friday, I'm making my fantasy team and I'm changing out one of my midfielders, and I'm like, who was it? Was it Gordon? Because we talked about Gordon, and I'm like, the scene because it was a little bit pricey, and I had like I think like a 1 point something left, so I had a good amount. I saw Wirtz, mate, and I was like, bro, I'd never put Wirtz in my team. That's what I said to myself. And then like literally the next day, Broski had me regret it. But hey, he's coming alive, man. He's getting
Yeah.
playing a lot better, affecting the game more now. I mean, Liverpool fans will tell us, we all have a player like this, which is crazy as our club. But you kind of fight for those players when they're not necessarily putting up the goal and assists, and you can kind of see what they're doing. So Liverpool fan will give him the credit that they've seen it early doors. It's just now coming to fruition. So it's a
Yeah.
good thing for
Well,
him. A good goal as well.
and I think, it's funny you mention that because I haven't thought of this previously, but it just kind of crossed my mind. The position that Florian Wirtz occupies is very similar to I mean, you could put maybe Cole Palmer in there, Odegaard, kind of like a half 10, right? Just because we don't really play with a true 10, but in terms of attacking, we can say 10, right? It's a tough league for that type of player, I feel like, the Premier League especially, and him especially coming in as a new guy, I mean, I don't wanna make excuses for him, but you look at some of those other players and the numbers that they're producing, besides Bruno this year, I don't know exactly what Cole Palmer's numbers are, but I know Odegaard's numbers are not great. So I think it's a difficult league for that specific position and that player because of the way these teams set out in these low blocks and transition from like mid to low. It's almost like it's become a prem specialty, the like mid block to low block when you're kind of just eating up the pressures. Interesting to see him kind of I think this is I don't know if this is his second goal in the prem this year or first, but interesting to see him pick it up a little bit. In that first half, he played very well too,
Yeah,
as did most of the Liverpool front line. I mean, there was chances, they were creating. Second half was a completely different story. I mean, they didn't create. I don't think they
I was
created
waiting
one
for the
clear cut.
Ekitike goal, bro.
Yeah, yeah. He had a good chance too in the first half, but I don't know, man. The second half, it was almost like obviously Liverpool controlled the game and possession, but it's like they would get close to the goal and they just couldn't find a way to create a chance, which has been a theme of a lot of teams this season. It was just shocking to see the contrast between first half and second half in this game.
Yeah, I get what you mean, but I mean, kind of just sum up what we've been saying, the issues that they've kind of had this season, not just defensively, but they've conceded a couple goals, a lot of goals defensively, and we've seen that. But going forward as well, and, remember the Palace game that they lost, and a couple other games that we can think of where they just kind of look, Mo Salah was also dropped. I don't know why the reason, we still don't understand the full reason, but when you have a player like that and you're going through the season that you're going through, and he's kind of almost getting dropped, which we would kind of associate to be their best player or best attacking player. I think it kind of leaves question mark around, the rebuild and stuff that they want to do, especially bringing in the new players that they did this summer. Obviously, with what we just said, especially in the middle part of the field, like you said, they brought in most of those players that we just deem to be one of the most difficult parts on the pitch to operate. So I think it kind of explained, like you said, the first half, a game of two halves, but it kind of just sums Liverpool, in my opinion, of what the season has been for them and about that area, along with Chelsea and those other teams. They all kind of, I mean, even Arsenal at the moment, right? We all kind of struggle to get an output from not just our striker, but those central players, like we said, we can kind of pick on them. And it's funny because I was watching this video and I'll send it to you when we're done. But it was a good insight of showing like they called it the M shape back in the day, but it was like I don't think it was a double M, but the way teams attack, it was like two central mid, the three defenders, that's the first M. If you could kind of like put that together, and then they'd attack with the what we'd have, which is the other five, which is another M. And it was basically the same kind of overload, if that made sense, like five versus the back four, you know what I mean? But it's what we just said, football is like changing now from having the overload to where you had that one spare player, you're moving the ball, trying to find the spare player to either dribble or whatever the case is. So I think we are, as football, we're just trying to figure that out. Because, like you said, at every club, honestly, we can go to the biggest clubs in the world. Unless you're playing in like a less physical league, we all kind of struggle getting creativity and any end product from the middle or the central area of the pitch, to be fair. Just getting it like how we normally naturally associate like a number 10 and an Ozil and a Lewandowski, or is those kind of players that got those, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's just a change of it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, obviously I watch Arsenal game week in and out, and it's interesting you refer to the M because, when you watch Arsenal, and I'm sure this is the case for many teams in the league, but most teams, I'd say, almost all probably teams, still try and essentially build from the back to start the attack out. And building from the back, when you high press, you have to bring players back to be able to beat that. And you might beat the press in kind of the half space, like on the outsides. But even that, in my opinion, it brings one or two of the midfielders back, right? Both of your central players back to where now your spare midfielder has to occupy kind of an even lower space to where if you can break the press in the first sort of press, you're not moving that far up the field because you're still getting the ball halfway inside your own half to where you don't even know if you can turn and kind of distribute it, right? So the high press is really hindering I'd say the quick kind of turnaround to break the lines. And then even if you don't, like let's say you don't go that way, you do the half space where you're kind of making it on the half space. It's so easy on the half space for teams to tuck in on the weak side and defend, right? The spaces in behind. So it's so difficult, I think, to create an attack because
So
if you beat it on the half space, teams are just going to retreat, come back, and eventually, you get a couple passes. But by the time you get a couple passes, everyone's in that mid block, ready to transition to a low block. And
I think defensively now, like you said, it's just everyone knows. Like I think my whole thing of it, like watching this video was really informative because it kind of showed me that we've had this issue before and we've kind of solved it because it's basically man-to-man marking all over the pitch now. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna send it to you just so we can have a little insight on it. But yeah, essentially, I think just to sum up what you just said, I think like you said, whether you receive the ball a bit lower or wherever the case is, I think the one main thing is everyone has studied the game and know what the most important thing. Now, we used to have, or when we were coming up, it was you were trying to stop the danger the furthest away from your goal the best as possible. So that made it easy for us to beat the first guy. Like you said, you beat the first pressure and then space opens up. Now you beat the first pressure, they're not running and chasing, or the first pressure that you just beat might be the one chasing you, but the pressure that you're not approaching is not necessarily approaching you. They're dropping to protect what's important, which is the goal. So it's kind of like a study of the game. You know what I mean? So, like you said, by the time you make that extra pass, you have two players back, dropping, protecting what's important. They could care less if you have the ball and you're doing 50 step overs or whatever the case is. they drop back into shape. They make it difficult because you have to come through them at the end of the day. So let's see how it goes. But it's interesting to kind of seeing that they've dealt with this issue before. Because for me, I thought it was a big change. Obviously, I didn't live in the 50s because a lot of this stuff was also from the 50s. But it's interesting. What for me gives me the biggest hope is that we've had this issue before, that we figured it out. So let's see how the outcome with. But I think most big teams struggle with. I don't like we see it nowadays. We watch it all the time. That piece we scored today, with Chelsea, obviously, like we said, we're recording on Wednesday, and Chelsea one goal that they scored today from set piece, and it's crazy. But I believe, along with Arsenal, we might be like neck and neck with you guys. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's just finding those little details to kind of separate yourself nowadays.
yeah. Well, and I think that kind of what we just discussed, if we take that and put into context, I think the Brentfords and the Sunderlands, it explains why they're having such a good season
Oh,
because the way
absolutely.
they break that is the long ball into the forward and break that whole press. And I think that's why they've caused so many teams, especially, teams on the upper end of the table issues is because in their method of breaking it, they have pace and they have strength up top, and it's a matter of get the ball to them and hope for like a half ball, a 50-50 ball to where you can win it, hold it up, get it to your supporting winger, and then just flood the attack, right? Or in transition into a counterattack. So I think that all kind of the methodology of those teams, the Brentfords and the Sunderlands, I think it explains why they're having such a good season because they found a way to kind of be able to counter that. Obviously, they don't have the quality of players that these other teams have, but I think like, I watch Arsenal, and for Arsenal to do that, I think it's a lot more difficult because number one, you have to be able to play that physical game in the top three positions. And I think that, most of these players are not geared towards necessarily the physical game, but more of the intricate and technical game. So I think that kind of changes it. Cause I mean, you look at Brentford and they have Igor Thiago up top, who's bagged, I think probably second top goal scorer in the league right now, right? So obviously a decent amount of goals. They have good wingers around him. I mean, Sade, excellent pace, able to counterattack, gets close to.
Bro, not to even cut you, bro, but like I think we can also give them the credit of the players. I think one thing you also just to even simplify that is you have to also think on their side, and I think it just explains everything. You gotta think about Arsenal versus Brentford. Arsenal has to impose themselves on the game. Brentford has nothing to impose. So that alone, like you said,
Yeah,
all of that we just explained, yes, different teams are gonna have different qualities and whatever. Arsenal has to expose. Arsenal, Gabriel is in the 6 yard. Like we just said, Brentford will allow you to have the ball and do, like I said, 5, 6 step overs, skill move, whatever the case. Arsenal's not allowing that. So when you have to impose and you have to create, it's a lot more. It's almost like giving an artist a blank canvas and just say paint. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't give them any kind of sort of what you want, if that makes sense. Yeah, we can give them all the quality stuff, like you said, but I think just having to impose yourself as as big 16, which is not a complaint. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? It's also effort is there. They let you have the ball, and like you said, one ball over the top. We were never pressing. All of your defenders are not pushed, and we just play the ball over the top and let's go for it. So
yeah.
yeah, but I think it should take us. We've spent enough time, so we'll go into the Sunderland Palace game because it looks like our boy Glasner might be having some tough time over there. 2-1 win for Sunderland.
Yeah, I think it's a tough time for Glasner, and I think it's just kind of the end of times for Glasner at Palace is what it seems like. I mean, all but really confirmed and announced, but I think that, if he sees the season out, I think he's definitely not signing a contract. And part of me doesn't blame him. I mean, he's
Yeah, I
lost.
was gonna say I'm 50-50. I agree and I can see some part, but most of me agree.
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, you're losing what you've lost as who's arguably your best player going forward, no replacement, losing your best defender in the middle of the season, more than likely no replacement going to be there. And now it seems like Mateta's leaving too. So I mean, what do you do with that with a team that already has a very small squad? Like how do you manage that? So I don't blame him. I think obviously I think part of it is like we look at other managers who, have maybe even faced worse times and they've kind of stuck it through to just kind of, prove themselves and whatever it may be. But I don't blame him. In this game in particular, I didn't watch this game. I mean, Palace went up 1-0, it looks like, and then Sunderland came back and won the game, which um, and take a look and see what we predicted. I think we both. Well, I gave this game to Palace, and you gave a draw. So I think it's kind of disappointing on Palace's. And I know that they're away, and Sunderland's been decent this season, but I think that this is kind of what I would say is their match, or sort of should be their match in the league this year at least. And I think to lose the game is difficult. Obviously, a lot going around the club and what it might be, but I think, credit to Sunderland again. They pick up 3 points and sitting on 33 points, level with Newcastle. I think it's a brilliant season for them. Just keeps kind of
Mate,
going.
this was absolutely also deserved as well. Like I said, we went for a draw because we've rightfully so given Sunderland the credit that they've deserved so far this season. And also with the time that they've played Palace as well, like we said, with all the outside noise and stuff going on. But watching the game itself, I think it was deserved. Sunderland played well. I think they were the better team. Edged it, not just edged it, but in terms of intent and the way they went for stuff, I think were the better team. Obviously, Palace took the lead, but I believe it was like what 3 minutes or so later, 2 minutes probably, when they got back into the game. So it just shows you. I mean, this was stuff. I think the things that we're saying about Sunderland this season is things that we would say about Palace last season. And I don't know when was this match, but obviously them recently also just getting knocked out of defending champions. What is it? The FA Cup as well, right? So I think it's just worrying for them, like you said, losing those players, and we do understand as well. That's why I'm kind of 50-50 with Glasner, and in the sense of I think for the club, I understand that you're going to lose these players for free, so why not make some money? So I definitely get that business side of it. But like you said, losing the players of those qualities, any coaches, especially a coach at Crystal Palace, should kind of be fuming. So it makes sense. But on the day, I think just a better team Sunderland was, and definitely, in my opinion, deserved it. Showed more attacking intent. Always solid, like you said, defensively. Made mistake for the goal, but I think after that, kind of just stepped it in. And I think even now, just kind of looking back on some of the stats here myself, it just kind of confirmed what I was watching because I wasn't able to kind of pay full attention to this game. But in my opinion, watching this from this equalizing goal, they just, like I said, more intent. So I'm happy for them, worrying for Crystal Palace, but also agreeing with Glasner that I believe you kind of do need to. I agree with these coaches as well as I did with Enzo, that you kind of do need to come out and let these clubs know sometimes, not just a club, but just to kind of open eyes, because I think for you can be on the outside, I think, as a Crystal Palace fan now, and your expectation after winning the FA Cup last year might have been massive, but you don't know what's going on internally. I'm always a little bit, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because if it happens in the future and it's something that I don't, but I'm okay in terms of the coach expressing their frustration, I would say, with the club, especially with a top coach that we know Glasner is, that he could get a different job.
Well, we'll see kind of how that plays out. Gonna be interesting to see. I think, and part of me thinks that, if you do, obviously Glasner leaves and you come this summer, you're gonna have to spend anyways. I mean, you need players to that squad. So it's almost like it doesn't make sense why you're doing it after losing a coach like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes. We can move into our
Hey,
guy, Tom
are we
Thomas
sure
Frank.
we had our team for the weekend right? Because I just remember this result. I just remember this result. It's crazy because we literally said, I know jokingly we were laughing. Like we were like, surely he has to win this game last week. That's word for word what we said. And this geezer went and lost 2-1 to West Ham. I don't know. That's insane, mate.
Mate, I don't know what's more insane, the fact that he lost or the fact that I predicted a 4-0 victory for Spurs. I honestly don't know which one is like
No,
it's a toss up. It's a toss up.
bro. Oh
Crazy
my God.
crazy times in
Hey,
North
that's why
London,
we're
I'd
here,
say.
bro. That's why
Oh
we're here.
man.
But yeah, that is hilarious. Hey, but what a horrific performance that was from Tottenham, man. I'm over here thinking someone said something, I think on Twitter, or I was watching a video, and I wasn't even thinking about it. But we just need I mean, I'm a Chelsea fan, so I'm gonna speak from the Chelsea point of view. But we need to go save either Romero or Van de Ven, bro, and let them go. Let the rest of them go. One of us big six team need to go save one of those center backs, and the rest of them can go, bro. Because I don't know what they're doing over there at that club, bro. But horrific
If
performance, man.
if you take away those 2 center backs, I think they might be down there with Burnley. It's already bad, and I think that it would just get worse.
Don't forget they did finish 17th last season. 22A expression will not let us forget. That's why I have the stats so perfect. 22 games lost.
22 games lost and 9 this year so far, so we might get the 22 again, I don't know. It's interesting, I mean, it's even what makes it even more interesting for me is the fact that the season they're having in the Premier League, but they sit in the top 8 in the Champions League. That's what
Yeah.
makes it even more interesting for me is, and obviously I think you and I both watch
Football, bro.
Champions League and Champions League football is a lot different than Premier League football.
Football,
I
bro.
think yeah, I think Premier League football is a lot more
Hey,
difficult in terms of breaking
remember
people down.
remember Chelsea first 2012 Champions League. They were horrible in the league as well. So it kind of goes back to I was gonna use that kind of analogy earlier for you, with when you were mentioning like the score and stuff. And I think to how football is changing, like we could talk about necessarily playing well, but I don't know if that equates to you winning nowadays because it's like we also explain the Brentford style versus a top six style. And then who is it for me to tell you which one is better? You know what I mean? So I don't know if it's necessarily watching a game where you're okay and you get okay from your team playing well. I don't know if that holds as much weight as it did before. I could be wrong. You used to be able to watch and say, we played okay, da da da. But now it's like we know, you can go to Arsenal, Brentford, or Chelsea, Brentford, and you're in Brentford half for 80 minutes, but Brentford could still win the game. And it's like, did you play well or were you just passing, moving the ball around well? You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah,
I don't know if it equates as much to necessarily. I think you have to be effective nowadays, and like I said, get result because it's a result-based business. So it's interesting for me that he's still in the job. But we'll see how it goes. It's 22 weeks in. Couple more to go. See, like you said, how they finish the season and if he gets to finish the season.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that takes us into the last game on Saturday, Forest Arsenal, goalless draw. Obviously I watched this game and it was a frustrating game. After the game I found myself kind of saying that we didn't create enough chances to win the game, but kind of looking back at it, I think we had a few good chances. I mean, Martinelli missed a goal and kind of an open goal. I mean, I don't know if you saw the chance.
I actually wasn't able to watch this game.
Yeah, so he missed. It was kind of on the left post. I mean, he was like, I'd say maybe a yard or two away from the post, not even probably a yard at most. And he hit it with his left foot, and it went completely wide of the right post, the other side. So I mean, it was just a matter of putting it on target and you score. And then Gabriel missed a very good chance off a corner, a header. I mean, unmarked, kind of unlike him, but he hit it into the ground instead of hitting it straight, which was a good chance for us to score. And we had a couple more half chances. I'd say those are probably 2 chances that, given a different day, those players finish, but a couple other half chances, but Forrest just made it difficult. I mean, especially in the second half, those chances that I'm referring to all came in the first half. So kind of like the Liverpool game, the second half was a lot more tight, difficult for Arsenal to create anything, and just kind of frustrating from an Arsenal fan's perspective, I'd say. Obviously, not a horrendous result given the fact that City and Villa lost, right? So, you kind of picked up a point and gained 1 point on them both, but just frustrating in terms of, not being able to create, especially in that second half. I think that kind of was more frustrating than actually dropping the points, to be honest, because I think if you create a few chances, you put something through, I think that game opens up a bit and Forest have to start coming out. So 0-0, I think, not the greatest result, but we kind of have to take it.
Yeah, I mean, also a rotated team. So, I mean, nothing to kind of blame. I think when you're a top six team, as much as how fans don't agree, I kind of seen that point. 100% believe that as a top six team, you should be able to rotate and play a team like Forest. I'm not going to say against a a title contender or someone that is close by in the table with you. But I think you should be able to rotate and have the quality to beat some of those teams that are in and about the areas where Forest is. So I think, like I said, I wasn't able to watch the game. So for me, I can't really judge from a point of view in terms of the performance. I was able to see the highlights and obviously bits and pieces of fans and their thoughts and what they thought of the game. For me, it's just, I mean, I still can't even complain because, like I said, I just kind of explained to you, I don't think performances, I genuinely don't think performances now equates to something necessarily going to happen in the future, like I said anymore. And I think for Arsenal, they found, if there's any team that we've said this season, they found the effective way of just being effective. And I think that's what matters the most nowadays. So if they weren't able to, obviously happens football, they can lose games. If they weren't able to find that, then I believe, most teams also would possibly struggle as well. So yeah, nothing like you said, nothing to really go crazy about. I know a lot of people are a little bit upset, kind of flashback to last season, being in the lead, stuff like that, etc. But like we just kind of touched on with the Man City result, I think in my thing, the only way where I look at this, I guess, in more of a calm way than an Arsenal fan, obviously I'm not, but for me, I haven't seen an Arsenal result like I've seen for Liverpool, Villa, or City. You know what I mean? Like I haven't seen a concerning result yet. So that's why I still continue to get the belief. I still think they can lose a game. And it depends on how they lose that game. I still think they can draw games like they did in this game. And like you said, when you look at it in the context of it, City lost their game, Villa lost their game as well. So you kind of gain points on those teams. So I don't know, man. Like we said, the table is interesting. It's a rotated team. I think when you're thinking on the context of that, like you said with Martinelli, but we can go over and over as well again about like the Cole Palmer, the Saka, all those players' number. It's a difficult. We're not seeing those naturally producing players anymore. So yeah, I think I I don't know. Like I said, I'm a Chelsea fan, but it's almost acceptable in my case to have these one-off performance. We just went through a December where we had I don't know how many games we've lost, but at least six, seven, whatever the case was. Like I said, I've yet to see as much as I've seen it from every other team, including my own team. I haven't seen a performance like that from Arsenal. So I think when you get a performance or those, then you can worry. A nil-nil to Forest, a Sean Dyche team, I don't think it's something to overthink at all.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I mean, I was really frustrated after the game, but kind of looking back on it afterwards, I kind of had the same ideas, the same thoughts, what you're kind of mentioning. So not the end of the world, and we'll see kind of how they bounce back. Obviously, this weekend playing United coming off that high, which I'm sure we'll discuss in the predictions. But moving forward, 3 games left, two on Sunday. Wolves, Newcastle, and Wolves picking up a point, which you actually had this game as a draw. So props to you for that. Goalless, another goalless game. I don't know if you got a chance to watch this. I saw bits and pieces of this towards the end, and I honestly, from what I saw in the game, I felt that Newcastle didn't necessarily deserve to win the game. Not really creating any chances that I'd say are
Disappointing.
like, yeah, yeah. Disappointing
I
would be
told
the
you.
word for me to sum them up. Yeah.
I told you before what I was doing. I apologize to my guy Words for disrespecting him and not telling him that I wanted to put in my team. But I was selling a Newcastle player because I've watched them previously going forward and they don't excite. Wissa comes on, Boltamade, they just don't excite sometimes, mate. So I'm glad I didn't watch this game because of my previous weeks of watching them. But along with just issues going forward. They are having issues defensively. I know it's 0-0 in this game, but saw the games a couple games ago they played us. They were up 2-0 halftime, gave the goal back. So it's just kind of from a Newcastle that finished in like up in the Champions League position last season, and I'm not sure where they are at the moment. They are, yeah, still in and about the area, 2 points off. So it's just a little bit worrying for me seeing it, but it's also like we said, just kind of summarize it perfectly. For me, they've just a shadow of themselves this season. 2 points behind, 3 points behind Liverpool in fourth place. So yeah, I think it's, in my opinion, like I said, nothing special like I've said about some of the other teams, in their performances and stuff, but still in and around the area. So let's see how they finish this season. But if it was a prem from a 100-point season, Chelsea, United, Newcastle, relegation zone, bro. telling you. If we're in that, we're in relegation zone right now.
I mean, this next game, like, me telling you I'm gonna tell you this, but I'm not believing what I'm about to tell you. So, the next game we're gonna go over is the Villa-Everton game, obviously, and then Everton with a 1-0 victory, and I watched this game, and before I even kind of go into it, with this 3 points, it brings Everton into 10th place with 30 total, 32 points, 3 points behind Manchester United in 5th, and 4 points behind Liverpool, top 4
36.
contenders, in 4th.
Telling you, bro.
It's hard to I know we're only 22 games in, right? But, I mean, that's a pretty big sample size for you to kind of get a good idea of what's going on. It's almost like you said, 2 losses and you could find yourself on the bottom half the table, you know what I mean? Regardless of where you are in the league, so it's an interesting league. I think it's an entertaining league in terms of, I also saw this, and I don't know if you saw this, but there's not a single team on a longer win streak than is it 2 games or 1 game right now? I don't remember if it was 2 or 1
Th-
games, but there's not a
Yeah.
single team that's on a longer win streak, and 20 teams, and I think the last time that this happened, the stat was, like, in the early 2000s. So, for us to be 22 games 22 match weeks in, and for no one to have a longer win streak than 2 games or 1 game or whatever it is, I mean, it's just it's almost like you can't believe it, but, kind of watching this season, you can believe it, right? Because every team is there. I mean, every team will give you a game. Even Wolves now, maybe not in the first, what is it, like 15 or 10 games or whatever, but
Yeah.
even Wolves now is a difficult team to
I'll
play.
give you a game. Yep.
So, it's very, very interesting, but kind of focusing on the Villa-Everton game, I watched this game and I thought Everton deserved the victory. I thought that they played better than Villa, I thought they managed Villa very well. Villa, for me, didn't have enough chances, and this game was more of an open game too. I mean, I know it's only 1-0 and maybe it doesn't seem that way, but it was more kind of end to end. I mean, you had chances on both sides. I think Barry got the goal. Ultimately, it was a mistake in the defense that led to the goal. I think it was between one of the defenders and Martinez, but just I'd say good game from Everton. I mean, I really enjoyed watching it. Like I said, I thought Everton deserved the 3 points. After they scored, I did think Villa would come back and get a goal. They just couldn't manage to do so, but brilliant 3 points for Everton away to Villa, especially given, Villa's form as of late.
Yeah, especially given Villa's form. And for me, I thought Villa was going to win. I had brought sold my guy Gordon, and I had brought Morgan Rogers in, thinking he would do something. And like you said, I was watching the game as well, and they had some chances. A couple where Pickford saved with his feet, especially Rogers. I would say early doors, like the first. I don't remember how, but so like you said, it was kind of a little bit in the early, sorry, I would say first 20 minutes, you would kind of see it going in the way of where the form book has been predicting, where Villa was probably, just edging it a little bit. But as you said, as the game kind of tapered out and it kind of gets to kind of calm down a bit, yeah, I think Everton massively deserved their goal. It wasn't something that Villa outplayed them or anything in that sort, and they got the goal there. And where I think, in my opinion, Villa obviously could have scored. Like I said, they had their chances, but I'm not also upset with Everton winning, if that makes sense. I think on the day deserved winners as well, because just of the way they, especially losing Grealish. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think for them it was a solid performance, I would say. But for me, I mean, I'm not in the title contender bracket, and I love that fact. I think it allows me to kind of give these opinion, but I've never seen Villa as, a title contender in my opinion, to be honest with you. I know you're an Arsenal fan, so you're not going to say that because you don't, whatever will happen, but I've watched all these teams this year, a lot of 22 games. I've watched a lot of games. I don't think Villa is a title contender. They say it, a lot of the fans, the manager, whatever say it. So, I think obviously, like we said, they've been on a great run, didn't start the season so well, but when you're on a run that they just kind of went on, and we've just talked about the table and the Prem, it kind of just, checks them into the position that they are deservingly. But yeah, I never really saw them as a title contender. So them losing to Everton and deservingly what we would say, not necessarily that, but a 1-0, Everton could take it. I think not something that surprised me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you're right. It's tough with the title contender stuff because I think if you were to judge the team based off of the play for me in terms of, their games, I wouldn't say that they're a title contender, but I think when you
Yeah.
kind of look at the table for me, it's tough for me to say no, right? Just because of where they are in the table. And, that might change drastically by the end of the year. We don't know.
And you're right, bro. You are 100% right.
And so I don't know. We'll see. I think that's an yeah. I think it's gonna be interesting to see kind of where they finish, especially given, how they started. Like we mentioned how they started. I think they hadn't scored a goal 5 games in. So interesting to see where they started, where they
Yeah.
are, and gonna be interesting to see where they finish. But we can move into the last game, the Monday game. Brighton Bournemouth, 1-1 result there. I didn't watch this game, but I did see the Brighton goal that they did score in the 90 plus, however, whatever it was, which was a
That's
pretty decent
everywhere.
goal. Yeah, so I think probably given I didn't watch the game again, like I said, but I think given the season, probably I'd say maybe a fair result given these
It
2
was
teams playing. I don't
deserved.
know if maybe that's wrong or not.
No, it was
Okay,
deserved.
yeah.
It that goal kind of, if you watch the whole highlight of it, kind of sums everything up. It was the second half, like you said. That was the Brighton's kind of second half. They were pushing, they were trying to get that equalizer. And it came from a very, very good goal, obviously, as well, an overhead kick. So, yeah, I think it was deserved a 1-1 on the day. Gotta give it to them. So, it wasn't anything exciting in the game, but
Yeah.
I think a deserved 1-1 for how the game played out.
I've been kind of questioning myself about this in terms of Brighton, but do we think them sitting after 22 games in 12th place on 30 points, do we think that's underperforming for them?
I don't think it's underperforming. I don't think it's underperforming at all because that's Brighton. And I'm not saying it in a disrespectful way. For us right now, I think, especially being, I keep referring to Chelsea fans, but I think this season for Chelsea fan is just speaking on this is perfect because you can relate to this. When we played Arsenal, we were title challengers, if that made sense. Like everybody outside, we were title challengers to us now, we are not even going to finish in the Champions League. I'm not saying that. I'm just being hypothetical. But it just shows the swing of moods, if that makes sense. And I know that's a big six club swinging mood because we started the season well, unlike other teams, and now we're tapering off and finding the bad periods compared to like a Villa, whatever the case might be. So I think it's easy for us to have kind of like mood swings for top six teams as the season goes. For Brighton, they're 30 points. Liverpool's fourth place, 36. That's 2 games. You know what I mean? So it's easy for us to say 12th place, like you said. And I think you made a great point earlier that why I said you're super right in terms of the Villa thing. Like, even though I don't see them as a natural kind of title contender, like you said, based on the table and how the season's going, we have to give it to them. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing for Brighton. It's easy to say 12, but we're 22 games in and they're 2 points behind fourth place. So what happens when we're 30? You know what I mean? So I think for them, they're going to
Yeah, yeah.
give it a little bit more time to kind of maybe make that assessment. But it's not for us at a big club, yes. And we give Brighton a lot of respect for sure. And I know that's where the question comes from because of the respect that we have for Brighton. But I think they're going to do the assessment more about 38 games when they can put everybody up and see where they actually finish. They're not a team that's expected to be in the top four, top six. You know what I mean? So for them, it's not the end of the world as long as they don't get relegated, at least in my opinion. Yeah, I think that's how they see it. I don't know.
Very interesting. And the reason I ask is just because, I mean, like you said, I think we give Brighton a lot of respect, especially, when they play kind of the top 6 clubs. It's always, they always give them a game. So I think that's where that kind of question stems from. But that wraps up match week 22. I think it just keeps getting kind of more interesting the further along we go. I think the table will switch up a lot after this next match week, especially, from anywhere from 12th to, like we said, probably 5th place, even 4th place can switch up. So interesting
Sure.
times. Are we ready to get into predictions?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it. First up, Saturday morning, 7:30, West Ham Sunderland. What are we thinking?
3-0 for me, Sunderland.
Wow. All right. I like Sunderland for this too. I'm gonna go 2-1 though. I'm gonna go our favorite result. Tough game to predict. Next one. Burnley Spurs. I went 4-0 for Spurs last weekend. I don't think I'm gonna go 4-0 this weekend. I'm gonna go for a 2-2 draw here.
Crazy because I don't even see two goals from Spurs, so I'm going 1-1. I was literally stuck in like that, and I'm like, but no, I'm not not even trying to troll, mate. I just think Burnley, like we said, along with Wolves, make it difficult. Look at them against West Ham. I think we said how easy to, you know what I mean, in terms of if we're
Yeah.
picking one of those teams in the bottom three to score against, we watch Burnley, we watch Wolves as we've given them credit. So we'd pick West Ham. So that's where I'm going from, but watch this game ends like 4-3 or 4-1 or whatever the case might be. But I'm going 1-1 right now.
All right. I like that. Fulham Brighton. Interesting game. I think sort of a tough game to give a confident prediction. What are you thinking?
I don't know. I'm gonna go to our favorite result and I'm gonna go for 2-1. I'm just give Fulham to edge it since they're home and I think they need to pick it up from last week.
All right. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 2-1, but the other way.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 2-1 Brighton. I think given kind of that loss to Leeds, I think I just kind of see Fulham a little bit less, which I know is kind of unfair for me to judge them based off one game, but I think Brighton will take this game. City Wolves, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna go well, I wanna go 3-0 City, but been so iffy. I'm gonna go 2-0 City.
Okay. I'm gonna copy you on that. I think City will win, especially given what happened in the Champions League midweek. I think they have to kind of bounce back from that. I think there was kind of like a fan base meltdown online after the midweek result in the Champions League. So I think they have no choice but to get a result here.
Hey,
Um,
listen, Erling Haaland reimbursed all of those traveling fans their traveling tickets. I hope some of these players are paying attention. I'm like, that's what shows you right there, quality team that wants to win. Because some of us imagine a
yeah.
United and Chelsea having to do that. Their whole budget is done for the season. Their whole budget all season
Uh,
is done. But
yeah,
yeah, it
that's
brings
funny.
us into the Bournemouth, Liverpool.
Yeah. I think a tough game, an interesting game to predict. I mean, I know when they played the first go around, it was a tight game and Liverpool edged it. I honestly want to go for a draw here. I want to go for a 2-2.
Okay, I'm gonna go upset of the weekend. I'm gonna go 2-1 Bournemouth.
Okay, I like that. Another tough game, Brentford Forest. Wow.
Yeah, this will be a good game. Wow, yes, interesting. I don't know where to call this one here. I'm gonna give Brentford the win. I'm gonna go 3-1 Brentford.
Okay. I'm gonna go 2-0 Brentford. Palace Chelsea.
Hopefully Mateta leaves this one. Oh God.
This was this a 0-0 the first time?
Yeah, this was that Eze free kick that disallowed for I don't know what it was, but it helped us.
Oh man.
I'm actually thinking I'll go 2-1 Chelsea just because of Palace's problems.
Yeah. I think I have to give it to Chelsea too because of what you just mentioned, Palace's problems. I'm gonna go 2-0. I don't think Palace if I'm banking on Mateta being gone, I don't think they're finding a way.
Yeah, I don't know. These next couple are interesting, man. Oh, if one can win any of these ones.
Newcastle, Villa. I don't know, man. I feel like Villa will get a win victory here for some reason. I think the high midweek, Villa's playing Thursday, extra day of rest, Newcastle's home. What are you thinking?
No, man, this one's tough. I'm gonna give this one a low score because every time I go high score these games, so 1-0 Villa.
Okay. I'm gonna go 2-0 the other way. 2-0 Newcastle. Tough game. Arsenal United. I think what not just obviously the result United had against City, but I think what makes this tough is I don't know if you remember our game against United earlier in the season. We beat them 1-0 at Old Trafford, but United was the better team on that day.
Yeah, I remember that game.
I don't know, man.
I'm
I
gonna
don't know. It's
go.
tough. I
I think it's tough as well, but I think at home for the Emirates, I think some set pieces and stuff will come in. And I just think that I think it's easy. Now, I'm not gonna say easy. I think for United, it was easier for them to play at Old Trafford than it will be to play at the Emirates. That's my take. Not easy that it's easy to play at Old Trafford, but easier for them.
yeah yeah
So 3-1 Arsenal.
okay. I'm gonna go 2-1 Arsenal. Everton Leeds, another interesting game,
Yeah,
and another one that's you can't really clearly predict the winner. I don't know, man. It's tough.
sure.
I'm gonna give this one a 1-1.
It's crazy. I was literally say 1-1 a while ago. I'm gonna go 1-1 as well. I'll copy you, bro. I think it's the
Okay.
best I can think of these boys here. Some interesting games, so
And I think besides the City game, I don't think you can comfortably, and I mean maybe Arsenal too. You gave it 3-1, but I don't think you can comfortably say a team's gonna win besides the City game.
no. And even the City game, I still think with what City, you say that because they're the closest. So I remember when you give other teams rating when you don't watch them, but from watching City, I'm telling you, bro, it's still not as even straightforward as we think. So I've seen enough of them.
Well, it's gonna be interesting, man. I'm excited to get to the weekend and get through these games, and then obviously hop on and discuss them again. That kind of concludes it. That finishes it up, wraps it up.
Yes, sir. Another interesting week. Thanks for joining us. Let's hope that this weekend brings us some more, a longer than 8 minute full all video clip of the Premier League goals, match week, whatever we just watched, mate. I would say it's just the lowest one I've ever watched.
And look at the results. It might even be a shorter one.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yep. Thank you. We'll see you next week.